What's up guys, I'm CandidCrandell and today I'm going to be talking about Pretty Little Liars Season 5 Episode 3, Surfing the Aftershocks. You know the drill. If you haven't seen the episode and you don't want me to spoil anything for you, pause this video right now. The day comes for Mrs. DiLaurentis' funeral, and Allie ends up picking out one of her mother's dresses. Normally this would not be totally weird because it's like, oh, you want to wear something of your mother's to her funeral to feel close to her. Totally get it. However, the dress that Allie picked ended up being the one that Mrs. DiLaurentis wore to Allie's funeral. Awkward. That is worse than wearing the same dress as someone to the prom. Definitely a fashion faux pas. Mr. DiLaurentis sees Allie in the dress and is like, you need to take that off, you can't wear that, and she seems to be like, why is he so mad? Emily thinks it was just a coincidence that she happened to pick out that dress, but Spencer, who I think is much more on the right track, thinks that it probably wasn't much of a coincidence. The girls meet with Mr. Hackett in his office, but he's being like a total douchebag. Now, we're going to do everything that we can to protect you, but you need to do your part to keep the distractions to a minimum. As if we wanted any of these distractions to be happening. We totally wanted our friend who we thought was dead to come back into town and make up this story about being kidnapped and have us back her up. Just exactly what we wanted for our last few months of senior year. Duh. I don't like Mr. Hackett. Maybe he's A. Spencer is specifically worried about Noel, Mona, and Ezra as the three people who know that Allie wasn't actually kidnapped and could potentially blow their story when it comes to the police. The girls all want Aria to be the one to go talk to Ezra because that would probably make the most sense out of any of them approaching Ezra at this point. He took a bullet for all of them, but I think the only one that he probably wants to see is Aria. Spencer is adamant about the fact that she doesn't think that Jason killed Mrs. DiLaurentis based on the look on his face when the dog dug Mrs. DiLaurentis up. I totally agree with Spencer here. I think that the obvious thing was to think that Jason was the one who killed Mrs. DiLaurentis. I don't necessarily think it rules out Jason as the person with the rock, but it might. Emily and Hannah happen to think that whoever hit Allie with the rock is probably the same person who killed Mrs. DiLaurentis, and they think that person is Jason. I agree that it could have been the same person, especially if she wrote that email to the person saying she couldn't protect them anymore, and the thing that she was protecting them from was when she thought her daughter was dead, but now that her daughter is alive and back, she cannot protect that person anymore. So it would make sense that those would be connected. Mona has a get well card for Ezra, like the super sketchy bitch that she is. And she wants Aria to sign it before all the good spots are taken. Mona says to Aria, we all have to be careful of how others see us. Ooh, she's like a doll that says creepy things. And I love it. I just absolutely love it. The girls ask Mona if she's seen Noel Khan, and Mona replies, I'm sure he's around somewhere, getting into mischief. That's reassuring. There's a new girl at Rosewood High. Her name is Sydney Driscoll, and she is on the swim team with Paige. She wants Emily's help with swimming. She's been staring at her all day, and Emily thinks it's because of the whole Allie thing, and it turns out that Sydney's just been looking at her because her name is on all the trophies. I think it's kind of indicative of what the girls are going through, though, that they assume that anytime someone is looking at them or speaking to them, that they're doing so because of the fact that they knew the dead girl who is no longer dead. They all see themselves and their importance in relation to Allison. To an extent, their self-esteem is still very much tied to Allison DiLaurentis and how they are perceived by other people as friends of Allison. Melissa comes into Spencer's room and tells her not to let the DiLaurentises see her looking at them. Spencer says it's not like they're the Hatfields and the McCoys. Melissa replies, no, of course, nothing that primitive. More like the Medicis and the Borgias. Melissa says to Spencer basically that she thinks that Jason is the one who killed Mrs. DiLaurentis. People are capable of all sorts of things under the right pressure. Is she talking about herself? Spencer confronts Melissa about why she lied about seeing Toby in London. Melissa essentially says that it didn't really matter whether or not she saw Toby or she knew he was there. Mainly, she did it to keep Ren out of the story. I guess Melissa was just trying to not talk to her parents about Ren because they're not the biggest Ren Kingston fans, with good reason. I get that, but I think that there's probably more to that lie than just her not wanting to discuss her complicated relationship with her ex-fiance. Melissa tells Spencer to worry less about her and more about herself. That seems like a threat. Hannah takes Allie to the funeral home to pick up the visitation book. While they're waiting for the funeral director, Allie looks at a painting that is on the wall, and she seems to be really freaked out by it and excuses herself and goes into the bathroom. I was super intrigued by this painting because the look on Allie's face indicated to me that there was something important about it, so I did a little snooping. The painting is entitled The Isle of the Dead, and it's by a Swiss artist named Arnold Böcklin. Pretty foreboding name, first and foremost. It's got the two people in the boat, one person rowing the boat, another person in white robes standing, and then in front of the person there seems to be a casket on the edge of the boat. So it's a pretty dark picture, one that I guess kind of makes sense to find in a funeral home, but for whatever reason it seems to sketch Allie out. Here's why I think it is. This is not the first time this painting has been on Pretty Little Liars. The other time we saw it was in season 3, episode 8, Stolen Kisses, when Arya and Ezra go to the museum to see all of the paintings from Ezra's grandparents' house. Yep, that very painting, The Isle of the Dead, is behind both Arya and Mrs. Fitzgerald when they are talking in the museum. Sketchy times a million. Now, it's very possible that it could have just been another copy of the painting. However, if it was something that one of Ezra's grandparents owned and then was put up in that museum, it's probably a pretty nice painting. So maybe it's a sign that the Fitzgerald family has influence in that funeral home. It seems to be some kind of sign to Allison. I'm beginning to very much suspect that Ezra's family has something more to do with Allie's disappearance than we know right now. Ezra's mom was willing to pay Maggie off to disappear and raise a child and not tell Ezra about it. She was willing to pay Arya off to end the relationship. Who's to say that she didn't make Allie a similar offer? And depending on what Allie found out, she may have been more keen on having her stay far, far away from Rosewood. Haven't we all wondered how she got all the money while she was on the run to survive for 2 years? The funeral director comes out and actually thinks that Hannah is Allie, and Allie comes out and Hannah corrects him. Allie says, "This is my friend Hannah. It used to be a little easier to tell us apart, wasn't it?" Ooh, that was kind of a dig at Hannah right there. We get to see a lot of Hannah's flashbacks to when Allie went missing and when her friendship with Mona first started. Hannah notes that Mona looks different and wants to know where her glasses are. Mona says to Hannah, if Allie's really gone, somebody's gotta take her place. Essentially, Mona kind of created the new Hannah and made her a lot like Allie, and now Hannah didn't necessarily protest to that, but I think now that Allie is back, she's realizing that this persona that she took on wasn't necessarily her and who she wanted to be. It was who Mona wanted her to be and who eventually society wanted her to be. In the course of all that, she lost herself, and now that Allie's back, Hannah's not entirely sure where she stands and who she is. Mr. Hastings asks Spencer what she thinks about selling the house after all of this crime stuff is done. Spencer's like, don't we have to like disclose the dead body in the backyard thing to someone who buys it? Mr. Hastings says, stay or go, we're finished with that family. So he is basically done with the DiLaurentis family, even though Jason is his son. Spencer tells him that he can't just cut off the DiLaurentises, especially because Jason is his son. He responds that sometimes complicated problems have simple solutions, Spencer. He is just sketching me out like a lot. Let's be real, he's never been the most moral character on the show, and I think now we're just seeing more of it. It's being highlighted and emphasized. In reality, this isn't a huge change of character for him. It's something that he's kind of been all along, and we're really getting to like see into it now. Arya goes to visit Ezra. He's got a cane, but he's alive, and he's not a vegetable, and he's here, so I will take it, take it, take it. Ezra apologizes to Arya for being in Rosewood still after she had told him that he needed to leave. He's like, I just didn't have any place to go and I got shot. Arya doesn't really seem to be mad about him being back in Rosewood. I wouldn't be. The dude just got shot and essentially saved all of your lives, so he can come back and stay in his apartment, I think. Arya asks Ezra if he's heard about what happened with Allie, and he's like, is that the story you all agreed on? Arya says, well, it's the story she told, and Ezra goes, so we just have to live with that? That's the deal? Ezra thought Shauna was A. When he said that he knew who A was from writing his book and everything, he thought it was Shauna. Like I said a little while ago, I don't think Ezra actually knows who A is. I think he knew a piece of the puzzle. Shauna had a role kind of in the A-Team, but I also think she was kind of working for herself and had her own personality personal interests, and I think that Uber A is definitely not Shauna. Ezra also thought that Shauna was the one who killed Mrs. DiLaurentis, but the timing is off. Ezra doesn't know Shauna is dead, and Aria can't seem to find a way to tell him that she was the one who killed her. Ezra has a new lock on his door, and it's so sad, and I feel so bad for him because he's scared of being shot, and he should be. I think he's aware that whoever is A has the capability to make copies of keys and just happen to get into people's apartments, so I think the lock that he has on the inside is just like a, nope, no one can bust this lock from the outside. This is a deadbolt from the inside. Perhaps to keep out his mother, who was able to get a key before and get into his apartment. I really think that this Sydney character is going to bring Paley back together, and I'm very, very happy about it because I miss Paige and Emily together. I am not an Emerson shipper. Unless Allison has like massively changed as a person, I just don't think she's good enough for Emily. I don't think that she loves Emily with the purity that Emily loves her. She loves to use Emily and loves what Emily's willing to do for her, but I don't know that Allison DiLaurentis even knows what love is, and I think that Paige really does love Emily. We see another flashback of Mona and Hannah where Mona is encouraging Hannah to wear a dress of Allison's that she accidentally left at Hannah's, and Hannah's like, oh no, it won't fit me. And then she tries it on and miraculously it does. But it's very, very creepy the way that Mona is essentially dressing up Hannah like an Allison DiLaurentis doll. We're seeing that Hannah's personality of being like the it girl when Allie disappeared didn't necessarily come from her personal desire to be the it girl. It came more from her desire to be friends with Mona, and she was doing what Mona wanted. I think Mona and Allie have a lot in common, including some kind of personality disorder. Allie and Aria meet up to talk about Aria's meeting with Ezra. Allie wants to know if Ezra knows about Shauna. Aria says no, and Allie says that it's probably better not to tell him. I don't like her telling Aria to keep things from Ezra. I just don't like her getting involved in this Ezra-ness. No Allie allowed in Ezra town. Allie says Ezra doesn't look at the world the way Mona does. He's a good guy. He's just too romantic for his own good. That's probably why you fell for him, Aria. Aria tells Allie to stop analyzing her personal relationships. Yay! I like that everyone's kind of shutting Allie down now. No. I am not going back to that place where you were in control of everything and you made me feel like a terrible person. Not happening. Aria gives Allie Ezra's book to read. She's definitely looking for answers. Emily and Hannah go back to Philly to the building that they saw Jason going into, and they find out that the place was a dry out location, and he was there the night that his mother was killed. So Jason officially has an alibi for the night that Jessica DiLaurentis was murdered. I think we all knew that it wasn't necessarily him, but now it's confirmed that he was somewhere else and he could not have been killing his mother in Rosewood when he was in Philly. Unless he's got a twin. Spencer is talking to Jason, who says that he is leaving town. My mother had a lot of secrets, too many. That's what killed her. Spencer decides to show Jason the draft of the email that his mother was trying to send the night that she disappeared. The email was time-stamped 2 hours after anyone had seen her alive at the police station, so we're starting to get a little bit of a timeline on this. Spencer and Jason discuss why she wouldn't have sent the email, and Spencer thinks that maybe it's because she wanted to deliver the message in person. Jason asks Spencer if she wants to be right or if she wants to be happy. That Spencer just needs to cut her losses and to remember that she can't trust him. Spencer says, "Who can't I trust?" Jason replies, "Our father." Well, that's a bold statement, but I think that it's probably pretty accurate. I'm just beginning to think that nobody is up to any good in Rosewood, ever. Hannah asks Emily what it was like to come out, what it was like to just stop being one thing and become another, and Emily replies that she didn't really change who she was or become something else. She was who she had been the whole time. And Hannah says, "Not me. I never knew who the hell I was." So clearly, Hannah is having a major identity crisis. She's no longer Hefty Hannah, but she's also not Mona's best friend, it girl Hannah either. So where does she fall? Who is she? Allie goes to visit Ezra to thank him for saving them on the roof. Ezra does not seem too happy about Allison being there. Allie tells Ezra that she's glad that he didn't die, and he says, "Me too," and I shouted "me three" because I am the most glad that Ezra did not die. Allie shows Ezra that she read his book and asks if there was more. She's like, after all that listening, all that watching, you're telling me that you don't have any of it left? Ezra says that if he did have any of it left, the only thing that would keep him from burning it would be the possibility that it might help Arya if she'd let him. So somewhere out there in the ether, Mr. Ezra Fitz still has a lot of his information from when he was spying and being a creepster McGee. Allie tells him that he'd better keep it in a safe place. I am sincerely hoping that A doesn't get there first and decide to burn it like they've burned many other things in the past. Hannah confronts Mona at the brew. You didn't help me, you changed me. You made me dye my hair, you made me wear her clothes, you made me walk like her, you made me talk like her. Mona points out that Hannah didn't put up any resistance. If I hadn't given you the Allie upgrade, who would you be? Hannah replies that she'd still be herself. And who remembers her? Not even you. Which is a very good point. Allie is walking around Rosewood late at night, and she runs into none other than Peter Hastings. Because that's not creepy, him being out late at night talking to one of his daughter's friends on an empty street. Basically, their whole encounter is super creepy, and Mr. Hastings offers Allie a ride home. The looks between them are a little weird, and I'm not entirely sure what was going on between them before she disappeared. Maybe he was having some kind of relationship with Allie. I know that that would be weird and totally inappropriate, but stranger things have happened in Rosewood, and he would definitely be someone that would kill her if he found out that she was pregnant. I'm still trying to figure out whose baby Allie thought she was pregnant with, because I think that once we figure out who that is, we'll have like a solid lead. The scene between Emily and Paige on Emily's front porch is just like gut-wrenchingly sad. Paige tells Emily that she loves her. Emily tells Paige that she deserves the best of everything, and Paige says, that's what I had. Oh, my heart. Like I said earlier, I really do think that Paige truly loves Emily, and I am pulling for them. Peter Hastings comes back to his house, and Spencer catches him coming in late and asks where he was. He brandishes a bag of pretzels and says that he'll share if Spencer doesn't tell her mother. Basically, he's like, oh, because we can't have salt. I was out getting salt. I'll share it with you. Haha. When really, we all know that he was out talking to Allison DiLaurentis and potentially giving her a ride home, and we didn't get to see what happened with any of that. Sketchy. Spencer shows her dad the email that Mrs. DiLaurentis was going to send and never managed to. He folds up the paper. Spencer says, what is this, a magic trick? Are you going to make it disappear? Peter Hastings seems to be pretty good at making things disappear. Melissa comes in, and when she reads the email, she tears it up in disgust, because that's not like an obvious thing to do or anything like that. Spencer says to her, oh, that's a grand gesture, but it doesn't amount to anything in the digital age. Mr. Hastings says to both Melissa and Spencer that there will be no more friendly fire. He doesn't want anyone in this family attacking one another, and I think he's trying to get everyone to band together, circle the wagons, so to speak. Melissa says maybe we should tell her, and Mr. Hastings immediately says no, and obviously Spencer wants to know what she's not supposed to be told. What's going on? It's complicated. And Mr. Hastings says no, it's simple. You can't lie about something you don't know. I don't doubt that every member of the Hastings family is a pretty good liar in their own right, and Spencer definitely was not the first. Arya goes back to visit Ezra again. Aww. After that last time, it definitely seemed like she wasn't gonna go back, but the fact that she went back again, I feel like bodes well for the future of Ezra. And she probably couldn't resist the facial hair scruff. I couldn't. Arya tells Ezra that she killed Shauna. But I'm really glad that she did it. I don't think that it's good that it would be weighing on her conscience, like the Jenna thing. It took her forever to tell Ezra about the Jenna thing, and she trusts him. I think she really does, and if she was going to share that with anyone, Ezra was the right person to share it with, especially based off of his reaction, which is to come to Arya and ask what he can do to help. Ugh. That is love right there, although maybe there's so much more creepiness going on here that I don't know. At the end of the episode, we see Hannah at the hair salon dyeing her hair a different color than usual. And through the frosted glass in the salon, we see Mona watching her. Another girl joins Mona behind the frosted glass. She seems to have blondish brown, curly, long hair. Looks like it could be Allie, it could potentially be Cece, it could really be anyone. Wouldn't it be crazy if all this time Mona and Allison have been working together. Oh God, that would be scary. That is too much manipulative brain power for anyone to deal with. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of this week's episode, and if you have any theories, I would love to discuss them with you. If you don't already, you can follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, Blogspot, and Instagram, username CandidCrandell. I put out videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again on Tuesday. Bye.